bonding together in the community and communicating. If you see somebody that don't belong in your neighborhood, I mean, there may be somebody selling something. Still, get a good lookout, get the tag, write it down. You may not know how it may help us later on down the line. So, this is a tight-knit community and communication is key.
Yeah, Lieutenant Hughes, I wanted to piggyback what we were talking about earlier in our neighborhood, Washington Overlook, and this goes back to strategy. We've had, within the last 3 months, like 2 cars sitting on bricks when we walked out the door in the morning time. And I noticed you have like an officer staged over at Thurgood Marshall. I actually spoke with him one time and asked what we're taking. I've also seen an officer staged on Commodore Joshua. Well, I don't know if they're in strategic checkpoints around the city where they sit and wait on calls or whatever. I don't know what the strategy is, but I was asking if maybe an officer can sit inside the communities to be able to wait on calls. I don't know if that's a strategy or not, because I think that would be a great deterrent during the hours of like 12 and 6 a.m. So I wanted to ask you about that.
Unfortunately, I cannot promise that we have enough officers that we can cover every community in this district. You also know we got clubs.
Or maybe like the high crime areas, but I don't know which one is high crime, but 2 cars in 3 months.
Right. You know, you also know we got the clubs on Queen Chapel, and the amount of manpower it takes when a shooting occurs could possibly pull people from this area. So I could promise sometimes, but not all the time, is an officer available to sit in your neighborhood.
We'll take some time, and I'd like to get your contact information too.
and I do. If I say that, then you will see an officer sometimes. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
But that officer rotates the area, correct?
Yes.
The one on the trail bike and then the one that you require.
Yeah, there's 2. I see what you mean.
It's 2.
Yeah.
So they're not in those areas at all times. And that's one spot like Thurgood Marshall or down at Petersburg building. So they're supposed to.
Well, this is their area, the Fort Lincoln area.
So they're
So
supposed
they
to.
should be patrolling from Bladensburg Road, right on down South Dakota, and all the areas. So I always, whenever I go to a meeting, I always ask, are you seeing the police? And I'm happy that you guys are seeing the police. I
Yeah.
seen my bike officer out there last night, so I know he.
We saw you TV.
Oh, you did?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
good, great. I'm gonna have to tell him, he's doing a great job.
I saw him yesterday. Someone was flying down. I said, what is that?
Right, so
I
they
kept
have
looking. I said, oh, it's look at one of those. But my thing is this. I don't travel at night anymore because I don't have no one to take my walk out of the car. And the headlights are against me at night. To come out to the meetings, and I have to ask someone to come and pick me up. If I was able to take my walk out of the car and park my car in the parking lot, I live there at 3005. There is a car the patrol car that patrols it, but I'm usually like 12, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock at night in the morning. But I would get home something like about 8:30, 9, maybe 10. And the parking lot is dark. 4 wheels have been taken off the car and been left on bricks or on the ground. Another lady's car, Cadillac, they think she had her tires locked on the car. They couldn't get it off, but they worked on it so bad that they couldn't get the tire off and she couldn't drive it either. It's an area. We have a lamp there, but the lamp is just like a light bulb.
I'm familiar with 3005.
Yes. And my car, I went out to my car, it's been some years ago now, Lord, it's that. And flew back and looked at it and opened it again. I said, it's my car. They had stolen the airbag out of my car and dismantled the ceiling light. So, you don't know when they're going to get that. And you don't know where. And we have a guard on sometimes, but the guard is in the building. I'm on the outside. I might be, if I could go somewhere, I could ask the guard to take my walker out of the car. I could go to church. I could come to my meeting. But I don't, because I don't know where nobody is.
Right, well, I would say first to speak to management and get the light improved around it. Because theft model is a crime of opportunity. And darkness breeds theft model crimes. So the 3005, y'all, is that building?
We're climbing now.
Right.
So we have a new tenant association. We're climbing. We just started our meal coming into the apartment this Monday past. It was a big success. But we still need for the people to come in. And they're coming in and out. Because we have traffic there for the visiting, and we don't know who the visitor is coming.
Well, I have
new clientele turnaround.
I have met and talked with management and the MPD does have a key to get into the building. And code to get into the building, so we do come to the building. Okay?
Well, now, that means we have to have a guard, somebody that's going to be looking out the door.
Okay.
Besides, just going around inside the building.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, know what happened on Beaver Road around 23rd of November last year? It was a shooting over there.
On Barry,
On Beaver, yeah. On Beaver Road.
on the 23rd,
Around 23rd of November.
no shooting on Barry Road.
Someone was out in the forest, right, or in the woods? You talking about someone out in the woods?
The shooting, I guess it was in the house or around the house. Like around 31, 32, the area. No.
Okay.
Well, we'll take a 10 views off the hook. We'll turn over to Mr. Baker. Sir, thank you again for being
No,
on.
thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I always like coming up here. In fact, I got a little lost. Things are always changing up here, and got to drive through the neighborhood. I did a little bit of house hunting, actually. And after hearing the lieutenant, I feel better. I think look for a house here. But I'm with the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency. You probably know a little bit less about us than you do about fire, EMS, and about MPD. We're really a coordinating agency that works very closely with both of these departments. But our major mission is making sure that we are prepared for any and all hazards and emergencies that could hit the district, that we can respond to any major emergencies, and that we're able to recover. We do that through a variety of things. One of the major things that we do is we work with all the departments in the cities to make sure that they have good training and exercise. So we're working with MPD and the lieutenant mentioned the National Incident Management System. So we're working across the city to make sure that all of our city responders are trained. We work with many departments, from our traditional response departments like MPD and Fire to the Department of Public Works, the Department of Parks and Recreation, the Department of Human Services, Department of Health, just to make sure that they are all trained, because they all become useful tools and personnel when we have a major event in the district. We also run a 24-hour command center that coordinates activities within the district. We call it the Joint All Hazards Emergency Operations Center, the JHAC. And that runs 24/7. We have people in that center. It's actually the traffic management center as well. So we have people in there all the time, watching cameras, and working directly with all the city agencies to make sure that things are coordinated. We're actually co-located in the building that hosts our Office of Unified Communications, which is the 311 and 911 that you call for city information and when there's emergencies. So we're actually co-located with them and help coordinate any of the major city activities that actually occur. We do a lot of coordination of special event activities. We host the Mayor's Special Events Task Force. So anytime there's a major event within the city, like a year ago when we had the inauguration, we're actually the lead agency for coordinating those types of things, coordinating major events when there's a marathon. Anytime those streets are blocked for the many things that we have in DC, we help to coordinate those activities and hopefully to minimize the effects on our citizens and residents, but still allow for a good and safe event. We also have our Emergency Operations Center, which is the center that we activate when there is a major incident within the city. And this is it's a state-of-the-art center. Really, you guys have one of the best emergency operations centers in the United States. It's really, I mean, if you see it, it looks like one of those things on 24, with all the screens and all the computers. But that's where we coordinate a lot of the major activities. Again, on the preparedness, one of the things that we do is we want to make sure that all of our residents and businesses are prepared in the event of an emergency. And we do a lot of community outreach and training to make sure that people know how to put together their emergency kits, what to do in certain situations. And we'd be more than happy to come, again, and I have some of my community outreach people actually come and teach you how to put together a kit and give you some of our equipment. And we work with our businesses as well because it's so important for them to be prepared. We actually have just implemented a business emergency operations center, which is both located at a facility and a virtual network as well, where we work directly with our business partners to make sure that they are prepared in case of emergency, but also to be resources to our residents. You guys actually have, with Costco being right here, Costco is one of our first members of the Business Emergency Operations Center, and they're a really critical member because, number one, we want to make sure that they're always up and running, even if we have a major storm, a hurricane, a weather event that comes through, that they're up and running, but also that they become a resource to us. If we need to use their parking lot, if we need to get certain resources from them, that we have a direct connection, we're working directly with them and coordinating with them before an emergency actually happens. And we coordinate both big and small emergencies. This past week, I'm sure all you guys experienced the polar vortex and the extremely cold air. There was 28 deaths that occurred because of the polar vortex, but none within the district. One of the things that we do is we try to be very proactive. So when we know that an event is occurring, we pull together a team of people to look at what we can do. And knowing that we do have a large homeless population in the district, what we actually did was we mobilized 10 Metro buses and put them in strategic locations throughout the city and actually kept them running all night so that people had a chance to go in and warm up. Because one of the things we found is the temperatures started to drop the first night. Not all of the homeless population actually, and not only homeless, people that might be displaced walking the streets want to go to a homeless shelter, and we didn't want anyone to die. So we actually kept these buses running all night. We worked very closely with MPD that actually picked people up off the streets, brought them to a warm place. We had food within the buses. So as a result of that, we had no deaths within the district. So that's just an example of what we do to be proactive. It's very important for us to be prepared for any event that could occur in the city. Anytime that we have any major storms, we've actually had quite a bit of rain recently. We work very closely with the Department of Public Works and with DC Water to make sure that they're clearing out all the drains that often cause urban flooding. We work extremely closely with the power companies. Most of you probably remember, not this past summer, but the summer before, when we had the derecho, and we had massive power outages across the city. We worked very closely with TEPCO on two major fronts. The first is a major effort that will actually end up undergrounding a lot of the power lines that are currently around, so that when there is a weather event, usually a lot of lines are knocked that PEPCO is directly connected with us so that we can coordinate and assist in the power restoration. So PEPCO actually has a seat in our Emergency Operations Center, and we have a direct line of communication directly to their senior leadership. Every time we have a major event that we can predict in the city, even with the cold weather, because the last thing we wanted was a major power outage when we had those extremely cold temperatures. We had regularly scheduled calls with the Vice President of Regional Operations for PEPCO to make sure that they were constantly monitoring, to make sure that we weren't getting into a situation where we might have communities without power, especially in those extreme cold conditions. So we work very closely with those type of entities to make sure that we can be more proactive. And again, it came from a lot of lessons learned, which is another thing that our agency does. We do a lot of the after-action reports. So anytime there's a major event in the city, we work with all the district agencies to ensure that we produce an after-action report and an improvement plan, which really allows us to look at what we need to improve so that we are better prepared for the next event. And another major thing that we do is making sure that we get information and alerts out to the public. So if any of you guys have DC alerts or subscribe to that through your phone, we are the ones that push out DC alerts. We also have a website that we update with all of our information. And I actually have this available for everyone out there. It's a glasses cleaner, or a lens cleaner for those of us who have iPhones and iPads. So it works really well, but it has all the information on our mobile application as well. So it's just great to have. You can always have it with you. You know, we always have our glass cloth. But it has information on our website that teaches you how to put together preparedness kits. It has information on downloading our app. And on our app, we have all the alerts for DC. We also have the alerts for the entire National Capital Region. So for those people that might live in the district and work in Maryland and Virginia, you can find all your alerts right there, so you don't have to have the multiple alerts coming. You can have that one place to look. It also has a map on there that'll if you have a smartphone, one of these type of phones, it'll actually geolocate you from where you are and show you your evacuation route out of the city. So it'll actually show you how to get out of the city right from where you are. So it's a really great app. In fact, it's one of the first ones for emergency management that's really come out nationwide, and a lot of the other big cities have been taking our lead and actually copying our app. But we're always happy with that. We like to be copied because it means we're doing something right. So that's kind of an overview of what our agency does and how we support the community. And again, outreach is a huge thing for us. So if you have events at your church, if you have other community events, we have a whole group of outreach staff that actually do lessons on how to put together preparedness kits, what to do in case of certain emergencies. Because the more prepared you are, the better prepared we are as a city. And then the more prepared you are, chances are the more prepared your neighbors are, because you know those people who are older in your neighborhood, those people who might have special needs, those people that you might need to take care of. Because really when it comes down to it, we'll do the best that we can in any situation, and NPD, fire will work with you, DPW will try to get those streets cleaned up, but it really comes down to neighbors helping neighbors and community helping community first. And that's really important to us.
Quick question for you. I can't say anything, that's pretty neat. And my question actually is kind of for all three. In order to be as prepared as you are, I know that you guys are doing some training and exercises and putting things together. And as a citizen here and a resident, I appreciate not really being impacted by it. That doesn't block my roads or streets. But on the other side, because I'm not really impacted by it, I don't really know what my role is in the event of a natural disaster or how to get out of the city, or when there's a fire or an active shooter. If I happen to live down by the Navy Yard, I have no idea what to do. What are some things, where can we get information on that, on like what our responsibilities are, what our impacts are, and how to best help?
Sure, Chief, you can hit it first.
You heard of Serve DC?
No, sir, I'm not.
On the DC government website. Would you care to expound?
No.
No. This could be interactive.
Well, the wonderful website that I've actually interlinked many resources among law enforcement, public safety. It also does
where the Citizens Emergency Response Team is housed and where training for our residents can occur. They actually engage you, tell you all about what we do, but they also tell you how you can help us do what we do better in the event of an emergency. So I would encourage you to go to the dc.gov website, look up Serve DC, and engage in some of the training. We always need volunteers when we have these actual training events. Always looking for volunteers who can either play the victim or, in some cases, play a helping role. When I was chief in Sarasota, Florida, the CERT was a very big deal because of us being on the west coast of Florida. It was subject to certain weather events. And what we trained to do was look for that CERT person, that person that's trained as a Citizen Emergency Response Team member. We used to bypass them first, but they realized they know the neighborhood better than we do. They know the people, as Brian said, better than we do. They know whose house we should go to first to make sure that person with special needs maybe is cared for, or that person is a senior citizen. So it really helps us. The more you engage through that process or with us, the better off we're all going to be.
And just to add to the chief, one of the things that we're going to be doing, working directly with Serve DC, as we get into the summer months, is actually do some community exercises. Each of the wards have their own emergency plan. They were developed about 2 years ago. As many plans go, the plan gets developed and it's on a shelf. So one of the things that we're going to do is, through a federal grant, actually get out and do some more ward exercises, do some more community-based exercises so people know about these plans and they know what to do. And we'll be working directly with Serve DC.
Has the Fort Lincoln area been identified in any type of strategic plan in your emergency initiatives, like a staging area or something like that? Is that something that's happened?
So in some of our recent plans, we have looked at the Costco parking lot actually, because we only have so many parking lots in the city because of the proximity to the highway and possibly bringing things in, which I actually will say is a very good thing for this community. We have, when there are major emergencies, we have something called point of distribution, our pod sites. And it's where we get supplies out to people after a disaster happens. It could be water, ice, food, in those situations where grocery stores might not be open. Fortunately, we haven't had too many situations where we've had to do that in the district, but places that get hit by hurricanes have those things happen all the time and have to give out goods and supplies. So one of the things that we look at is where are good locations for us to be able to, where we can actually bring down supplies and hand out supplies. So we have looked at the Costco parking lot as a possible location because of its proximity to bringing things in from Maryland, the ability to get in and out. It's actually a perfect pod location because it's a single point of entry and exit for driving. But it's always a complicated thing in the district because we're in an urban environment. And so many of the models that are set up for distributing goods are based upon hurricanes. And hurricanes don't hit as many urban areas, so there's not as many good models. So we're always looking at places. But that's really one of the key areas that we look at.
My question is, when you all revisit the funds, there's not enough funds to work out for the emergency evacuation. Not only that, they're not the ones that do exist, or at some time are very old, and they're not large enough for someone coming from a distance to read those signs, the emergency signs on the street that said this will be the emergency evacuation. And most